First, Israeli tanks have taken control of the Rafah border crossing. The IDF continuing to move into Gaza's southernmost city, despite warnings from the international community. Just yesterday, the U.S. president warned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from launching an offensive. Domestic pressure is also mounting on Israeli officials to accept a hostage deal after Hamas announced it was agreeing to a ceasefire agreement last night. Now, for more on this story, we can go across to France 24's Irris Makler standing by in Jerusalem for us. Irris, what's happening in Rafah and how is this affecting a ceasefire agreement?
Well, what's happening is a limited, as they're calling it, Israeli ground operation in the Gaza Strip. Israel has gone into the Philadelphia corridor, the area between Gaza and Egypt. They have taken control of the border crossing there. That was the border crossing through which aid came in and through which Hamas smuggled goods in as well. So Israel's taken control of that, and we have seen that that Egypt is putting up concrete blocks on that border crossing. You know, an instant wall is going up between Egypt and Gaza to keep Egypt out of this war or out of whatever we are calling this operation at the moment. At the same time, I've just seen something on Twitter where Palestinian sources say they've been receiving leaflets in the center of Gaza, similar to the ones that were dropped yesterday by the Israeli military on the east. And what they say is for civilians to evacuate from there too. So that's the broader picture. How does all this affect the ceasefire talks? We know that Israel has sent a delegation to the talks in Cairo, not to negotiate itself, but rather to listen, to see where the differences are between Israel and Hamas on this ceasefire deal. And with all of that, what I've just heard a briefing from an Israeli general in which he said the aim of this is to make sure to bring Hamas to the negotiating table. And I'm reminded of an American negotiator who said a few days ago, Hamas is trying to lift the price. Benjamin Netanyahu is obsessed with internal Israeli politics, and we American negotiators are trying to square the circle. So we have to see if someone can square the circle.
Stay with us, Irris, because news last night that Hamas accepted a ceasefire deal, renewed calls from within Israel for the government to do the same. Take a listen.
End this war, save all the hostages, end this horror, and bring our loved ones back home, bring my son back home.
Of course, Israel should end the war even without a deal. So if it's with a deal, it's even better. And get the hostages back home and just finish this horrible war.
There is always a hope in my heart that Netanyahu will agree to make a deal. But unfortunately, for the last 7 months, my feeling is that he gave up on the hostages.
How will this additional pressure, Irris, influence Netanyahu's thinking?
Netanyahu is being pressured from two sides. There are those hostages' families that we can see there. There is, last night in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem, there were masses of people who just came down onto the street to support the hostages, to support these families, to support a hostage deal, because there is a feeling amongst many hostages that I've spoken to and heard from, echoing that last woman there, who just don't think that the hostages are Netanyahu's number one priority. What they fear is that his right wing is Netanyahu's number one priority. And we know that the right wing parties in his hard right coalition say that more important than the hostages is going into Rafah and defeating Hamas once and for all, as they put it. So all of those things together mean that he's pressured from the right and pressured from the left, or pressured from the street, if you like. And that means that he's, for a man who doesn't like to make decisions and whose own personal situation is bound up with this. You know, if he doesn't succeed in bringing home a deal, or if he brings home a deal that the right wing doesn't like, then he won't have a government. And he's very aware of that, perhaps too aware of that, or more aware of that, or the fear of people on the street is that he's more aware of that actually is his priority rather than the safety of the hostages.
Irris, thank you very much for that. Irris Makler reporting there for us from Jerusalem.